former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak is with us. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start with the weekend attacks. Many are calling this a genocide. Netanyahu maintains this war is going to continue until Hamas is eradicated. First, I want to ask you about the term genocide, sir. Do you believe with the word that's being used by so many around the world?
No, I think it's wrong. It's not a genocide. It's not deliberate. We are doing our best to minimize it. Unfortunately, very heavily populated area where terror is fighting you from within the civilian population. We tried our best. We tried to announce any place that we are going to attack, to ask the people to leave, give them a day and one more day and one more day, almost 2 weeks. And most of them left. But those who remained under a gun to their temple, held by Hamas. So basically, the causal chain, Hamas is responsible for it. But of course, we feel bad about any civilian who is not involved in any way. And we hope that we will manage to reduce the number of civilian deaths when we continue the operation.
Prime Minister, how attainable is it that Hamas will be eradicated, especially when Netanyahu is saying that's when the war is going to end?
Look, Netanyahu is a little bit kind of exaggerating. He says that we have an absolute victory just behind the corner. It might take several weeks just to make evacuation of major part of the extra 750,000 refugees in Rafah. And then if I will derive the time which might be needed from previous battles like in Khan Yunis, for example, or in Gaza City, it might take 3 to 5 months before we can announce Rafah being taken over fully. So by that time, the refugees, already now probably half of them are not alive anymore, they might all coming back in coffins. So there is a heavy question mark about the order of priorities. I personally believe that to release the hostages is much more urgent. They were abandoned by our own armed forces and by our own government on 7th of October. And there is no need to sacrifice them right now to pay with their life on the altar of destruction of the 23rd or 22nd Battalion of the Hamas. There will be enough time and enough reasons to attack the Hamas once again when they are back home alive rather than in coffins.
So I'm glad you brought up the hostages because you have, from the very beginning, said it's the most urgent issue. Should Netanyahu have accepted those hostage negotiation terms from Hamas a bit sooner, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think there were several opportunities to do more. And the real litmus test in my judgment, for my experience, is to give the team that is negotiating all the room for maneuver. Ask them bring back the best deal that you can cut with or strike with Hamas at referendum. We, the government, will decide whether to accept it or reject it. But as long as from the top, Netanyahu tries to limit them, to tell them exactly what just to listen, what to respond, and what to accept, what not to accept, that's not the way to reach a deal. And I think that's a defect from day one in the negotiations.
I want to ask your opinion about the current prime minister. How do you think Netanyahu is handling this?
I think, I'm sure that he wants to see the refugees, the hostages being brought back home. But when it clashes with other challenges like staying in power or losing his messianic racist members of the government, and as a result of it going into new election, he prefers the private kind of political considerations over the destiny or the fate of the hostages, and that's unacceptable in my judgment.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.